I'm going to try to take a deep breath. Like Mike said, I'm always the organizer, never the presenter. This is my very first time. I have a favor to ask of everybody is if you could take a picture of me and help me remember this moment. I will tell you later why. So today's topic is UX Your Life, applying user experience principles to your life. I'm going to go through what all of this means. What is user experience? So user experience is the overall experience of designing a product for a website, a platform, an app, or anything. So a lot of times people think that user experience is strictly design, but it's not. That's actually user interface. So user interface design is the actual design of the interface that somebody is interacting with. So it could be branding, design, layout, the visual hierarchy. And then there's something called IA. So we techies like to throw these terms around very loosely. We talk really fast. So just wanted to kind of give you a brief overview. IA stands for Information Architecture. And we focus on basically putting content into different buckets so that the user doesn't get confused. When you get to a website, you want to know where the homepage is, where the articles are, where the videos are, and we just kind of organize it so that you can navigate the site properly. So all of these things collectively help you create a better product. So UX, this is a chart that I found on the internet that defines what UX is. There's a whole lot of keywords. And these are just some of the keywords. So I'm just going to kind of pick and choose some of the things here. So it includes business analysis, value proposition, marketing trends, interface design, prototyping, functionality, back-end process, and of course everything needs to be consistent. So when you talk to somebody and they say they do UX, don't just think that they design, because it's really very holistic. So what exactly is UX? So the first phase of it is research. So when I work with my clients, I ask them, what are we doing? Why do you want to do this? Right? What is your ultimate motivation? What's the budget that we're looking at? And we go into requirements. Who's your audience? Again, why do they need this product more so than anybody else? Then we go into insights and validation. So we can do journey maps, we do use cases, we kind of do exploratory information. It might look like a questionnaire. I might do a sample questionnaire of random people in the room to see if it works for you. The next thing is tying everything that we've learned and putting it into a concept and a strategy. So when I say concept and strategy, that includes the visual element, the business element, the marketing, and the sales. So I'm basically, pulling everything together from the business end all the way through interaction and then through design. There's design. So that's the visual layer. So it could be the branding, style guide. This will be available online too. And last but not least, development. And that makes user experience. So the basic components for good UX. You have to have a business opportunity. You have to understand your customer and market needs. There's a layer of branding and design, the technology, and the resources. So the way that I like to work with my clients is we go through all of these steps in various exercises. It doesn't have to all be at once. In fact, this could be like a 2-month process. And let's just lay everything flat out on the table and start pulling pieces together, right? How many people are running a startup? Okay. So sometimes you know some of these answers and sometimes you don't. So we pick and choose what we have available to us right now. So you may not know what your monetization plan is right now, but we're going to look at all of the different elements, look at the low-hanging fruit, what your strengths are, analyze where your weaknesses lie, and then we kind of put together an MVP. So you might not have a developer, but doesn't mean you can't get started. You can move forward into the concepting phase, understanding what your customer needs are. You can move into the branding and the styling. You can move into prototyping and wireframing. And you can also do the design. If you don't have a developer, you just stop right there. Go sell your idea. Why not? Kick-ass developer. I'm sure there are plenty here in the room. So here are the basic questions that we ask when we do user experience. Who, what, where, when, why, how. But these are not one-dimensional questions. They're multi-dimensional. So it's not just from your point of view, but it's also from the customer's point of view. And you also want to understand that glue between all of it. It's the why. Why do you want to use this? Why do you want to sell it? There's a whole set of emotions that you want to connect and tie into. And that basically helps create a really good experience. So, how do we apply this to our life? This is the good question. This is why you're here, right?
Friday morning, yeah.
Yes, okay. All right. Why should we, could we, would we apply UX to our life? Well, you can UX all these different things. You can UX a problem, a goal, a career. You want to be an entrepreneur? Let's do it. You want to develop a product? Let's do that too. You could UX your life so that you're happier. You want enlightenment. A trip. I actually UX'd a road trip for 2 months. And I realized I was not ready for it. But at least I UX'd it and I learned that. Groceries. Anything, right? So you're probably wondering why I went down this path. So earlier this year, I had a lot of questions. Had a lot of stuff happen to me in my life. And I asked myself what I wanted to do with my life. I'm 38 years old. I've accomplished a whole lot, but I had a whole lot of questions. I just don't know what to do. So I needed to UX my own life. So this is the list that you saw earlier. This is what makes for good product UX. This is what makes for good personal UX, right? So you go through it. You want to know what your overarching goals are. What do you want to do? You got to understand, now I'm talking about you, right? So you have to understand what your emotions are and what your values are. And this falls into your belief system, your successes, failures, dreams, cultural background, whatever it is. And then you lay in your talent, your skills, your passions, your education, your achievement, your design. How do you look? I'm wearing gold today because gold is the color of winners. Are you confident? Are you approachable? And then resources, friends, family, your alumni, business connections, acquaintances, all y'all here, right? So again, going back to the basic questions, who, what, where, when, why. There's so much to explore here. So we're gonna break this shit down. And let's get very real, okay? So this is how it works. This is something that I put together. And this is the foundation of good personal UX. This is where we are in the middle. And everything about you ties in. I just said we're gonna get real. So this chart is an exercise. I'm actually writing a book called UX Your Life. And it takes everybody through all of these different quadrants. And the goal here is, like I said earlier, with product development, is lay everything flat out on the table and let's take a look at this holistically, you as a product. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, then we got to figure out, do you have the means to make it? Do you have the network? Do you have the smarts, right? Are you lacking in sales? Are you lacking in concept? Let's put it all out here, right? So you tie everything together. And you have, I actually found a lot of interesting things here because your dreams, fears, and expectations can actually hinder you moving forward. I know it's happened to me where I have an idea and I'm like, I can't wait to do it. And then I can't. And I don't know why. It's because I'm scared. And it's okay, but at least I acknowledged it. So remember, let's keep getting real. So these are some of the exercises that we can do and apply to our life. So these are some things that I actually do with my clients. I don't go through them in any specific order. We pick and choose what we need to do depending on what the problem is and what the resources are. Does this look like mumbo jumbo to you? Should I go through all of this? Yes, no? Yes? Go through it. Okay. So it's really important to identify your goal. What is it that you want to achieve? And then you got to do your research, your who, what, where, when, why. I like to throw in the SWOT analysis to your life. Let's identify what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are, right? Because this will impact your current and future state. We're going to do a journey map. And that's where we break down the entire experience in different intervals based on what you have available, what your skills are, what your emotions are, and we create a timeline. So remember I said I journey mapped my road trip? I did the exact same thing. I planned 2 months worth of cross-country travel, and I highlighted every single day. And by day 5, I was like, I can't do this. I can't sleep on a different couch for 5 days straight. But I journey mapped it. So you can storyboard it. So I like to do this because this is a really quick iteration on determining whether the path is the right path for you. So it could look like, I want to be a doctor. Can I be a doctor? Yeah, I'll probably be a doctor. Do I want to? No, not really. Why? Because I'm going to have to work 80 hours a week. Is that how much time they spend? 80 hours a week. I'm like, no, I don't think I want to. Okay, done. Right? So I axe that one. So storyboarding is really running through it very quickly in your head and saying, can I do this? Do I want to do this? Yes or no? Then we go through the MVP. So we hopefully have laid everything out on the table, and we pick and choose our strengths and weaknesses. And then we develop an MVP, which is also the low-hanging fruit. So me, for example, I'm a UX designer, and I have been consulting with Maui Media for about 8 years. Going on 9 years. And I didn't know that I wanted to start a business, but I knew I wanted to be my own boss. I was having problems with authority figures. So I kind of laid everything out on the table. And my strengths were I'm outspoken, I'm social, I get stuff done. I'm really good at what I do, and I like talking to people. So I took all of those, and that was my low-hanging fruit. So I did exactly that. I started talking to people and I said, hey, I freelance. Let's do something. Okay. And that was it. It was really easy. But I found my MVP just by kind of identifying who and what I want to be. Wireframe, you can paint the picture of the future. You can do a roadmap. So this would be creating building blocks. So let's go back to the doctor analogy. You're a student right now, and you want to be a doctor. You're not very good at biology or math or chemistry. So your next building block would be to bump up some of those, educational insights, right? And then you kind of go from there. You might want to find a mentor. You might want to get into a college, community college before you get into university, so on and so forth. So you have to build these stepping stones. And then if you really want to, you can put yourself on a production schedule. So again, these are things that I do with products, but you can apply it to your life. So let's talk about me for a little bit. Why am I here? I need to read my notes. Who am I? I like that. Thank you. So I've been doing design for 18 years, and I've been working for myself for about 8 or 9 years. And I didn't know, but I have inadvertently been UXing my entire life. I have been living without my parents since I was 13. And so every decision that I had to make was made on my own. No guidance, nobody to fall back on, nowhere to go home. And I always had to watch my every single step and move. Because if I made the wrong step, then I had to hold myself accountable. And that's just the truth. I believe that there's so much more to life than just sitting in an office and staring at a computer screen. And this is why I UX my life, because I wanted to have fun and make money doing so. And I know that all of you guys can do that too. So, a couple things that I have done. I always forget that I've done these things. I am the president of Maui Media, I just told you that. I, in 2003, co-founded a nonprofit animal rescue group that is currently in operation in Los Feliz. I am one of the organizers here at Innovate Pasadena. And I'm also on the steering committee for TechSparks, which is an organization that helps aspiring entrepreneurs get to the next step. So we provide that, that help and resource. I have spoken at USC, at UC Irvine. I've been invited to speak at SoGal, which is run by Pocket Sun. She's like some 19-year-old girl who's been featured in Forbes magazine. Pretty amazing girl. This is my company logo. These are some of the companies that I've worked for. I've been really, really blessed to have been able to work for them. I want to show you this logo. This logo with the eagle, no, that's an owl. That's Murata. I got really lucky. That studio belongs to Guillermo del Toro. I had the honor of working with his business partner in developing a product. Again, I couldn't have done this if I didn't UX my life. So this is the page that I said I wanted to include. So I have traveled to 5 countries this year because I designed my life to be so. I've been to St. Martin, right here. I was on a catamaran. There were two catamarans. I was in San Diego, Montreal, got my motorcycle license. This is me boozing it up in the Caribbean. And this is in Bali. I have been so grateful to have this expertise to be able to, design the life I want to. And this has become very real to me. My life has not been easy. Just about a month ago, I was diagnosed with complex PTSD. And if you know, living on your own with no parents and trying to UX your life and become what I've become has been increasingly difficult. I didn't know what I was dealing with. I have had my ups and downs, could not understand why I couldn't hit that level of success that everybody else has. But now that I know what I have, I'm grateful to be able to understand how to deal with it. I still have my panic attacks, but I'm still me, I'm still bright, I'm still smart. But I've designed my life so that I could live it this way. My gift to you is this: if I can do it, you can do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Excellent.
So we're going to open it up to Q&A. Augustine's going to jump in for John. And so if you raise your hand, we'll hand you the microphone. Stand up, say your name, what your company is, and then let's keep it to questions and answers. We all appreciate that you've been to Bali as well, but we don't want to hear that at this moment. So if you have a question, raise your hand.
Sonia,
Hi.
I'm David, artist and designer. I want to hear a little more about how you've managed to work all the travel into what you do for a living. Like, how did you facilitate that?
So I tell all my clients, I'm very authentic about who I am and what I believe in. I don't believe in working in an office because I believe it stifles my creativity. And I tell my clients this: if you put me in an office, I'm going to charge you twice as much. You do that. So when I travel, I work remotely, and I'm very upfront. If there's a deadline, I probably won't go somewhere, but if it's flexible, I'll go. I will work remotely. I've worked remotely in Napa, just so many different places. All you have to do is just like rent a place for a chunk of time, sit down, live like a local, and you can accomplish both. And that's how I achieve balance in my life. Yeah. Hi, Christy.
Hi, Sonia. How are you? I'm Christy. But you knew that. So, how do you turn to others to use as maybe mirrors or to reflect with them about how you UX your life, how you understand yourself, and how you choose to go forward? Well, you know, we live in a world with each other, and we have our own blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
So other trusted people will know us, learn to know us well, and we wanted to, at least I want to turn to them and say, this is where I am, how I'm seeing myself, what I see going forward, and ask me some questions or reflect with me. Mm-hmm. And when I have that support, I get. Well, here's what it is. My daughter was in ballet for years and years and years and years, and now she's in tech. And he's right. It's all wrong. The question, I asked it, and she didn't get it. So she learned to love to be critiqued, which is hard for a lot of us.
Yes, absolutely. And I have worked with so many different startups. I appreciate that, by the way. I work with so many different startups, a lot of CEOs of different personalities. And the first thing you do is do not tell them what to do. As a consultant, you learn to ask questions, and you make suggestions, and you let them believe that they came up with the idea. So you have to understand, in order to ask these questions, you need to look at what the playing field is. You need to know what all these elements are and what options are. So hopefully before you've approached a person or a client, you've done your homework, right? Who, what, where, when, why. My job isn't to tell you how to get to that next step, it's to help you understand how you can get to the next step. Same thing goes for product design, personal. So for your daughter, I would just ask her, what makes you happy?
I'm actually asking, how do you do that part for yourself? How do you get
boy.
other
I don't know, you tell me. There's Jen, where are you? Jen's been one of my people. She'll ask me the questions that I ask my clients. So I think it's also important to surround yourself with people that you trust who are insightful enough to be able to do that with you. Yeah. Hope that answers that.
Yeah.
Okay. Question in the back. Oh, Nate.
Yeah, so yeah, I know you for a long time, so this first time I heard you talk about so honest and open, so I'm really touched.
Thank you.
The question for you is, for you UX design your life and go to the production phases as planned. But as you know, we all entrepreneurs, things usually didn't go the way you wanted to.
Absolutely.
You had to go through a lot of iterations. So how the iteration process go? How do you modify the design?
You pivot. Isn't that what startups do? You pivot. I mean, you always look for your low-hanging fruit. And if it's not available right now, it might not mean that it's not available later. Because opportunities do, arise. I think one of the things that I've learned through personal UX is that the universe does answer your call. Maybe not at your timing. With product, you can literally pick up the phone and say, hey, I need X, Y, and Z, and boom, you've got it. With your life, it's a little bit more dynamic. There's an element of magic involved. And that's not something you can control. But what you can control are your circumstances and the way you react to it. So yeah, pivot.
So like you, I've never enjoyed being bossed or managed. On the other side, have you ever had the desire to be the boss or manage anyone?
That's actually a really good question. There were times where I wanted to scale my business and manage other people. Knowing myself well enough, I decided that I did not want to manage other people. The simple reason is this. If I wanted to take off at 1 o'clock to go snowboarding, I can. again, that's just a personal choice. This is how I wanted to live my life. The moment where I decided that I didn't want a boss was when I was working at Disney, Disney 2.0, when they moved from HTML to Flash. This was in 2005. And my director had been hired in, and I had been working in corporations and agencies for a very long time. So I understand that every department has personalities, and sometimes these personalities don't work well with one another. And here I come in, I'm like, hey, let's all be friends. I get stuff done, and I rub people the wrong way, but I get stuff done. And after a successful launch on time, right, I got pulled into the office and was told that I was disruptive, and I got written up. And that's when I said, I'm out. And so, you know, I think it really, having a boss means not just somebody who signs your paycheck, but it also means somebody who's invested in you enough to help you grow and help you become an asset to the company. And I think that a lot of organizations and startups are learning about this culture, but I didn't have it when I was, you know, in the early years of my career. So I hope that answers your question. I just want to go snowboarding, or I want to go to the beach. Yeah. Just being honest.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Voltaire,
Hi,
and I represent a startup that's based out of Amsterdam. It is a mobile app that measures people's willpower towards their goals in life.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can measure individuals, it can measure groups, countries, and cities in real time, their productivity. My question to you is, the CEO, Ramona Wright, is looking for women to join the company because the goal of the company is to have a tech company that's 51% women. Where might I find more women that are in the design space?
Wow. Well, Tanya is right here. I missed a slide. I wanted to go through and explain the difference between designers. There's a difference between a production designer, a print designer, a web designer, a UX, and a UI designer. They are not the same thing. So when you say designer, I think it helps to qualify what exactly it is that you're looking for. There are in Los Angeles several different women-driven organizations for entrepreneurialism. Specifically in design, we're kind of all over the place. There is an organization called Women 2.0. There is actually a website called Power to Fly, which are women consultants that are all over the world. Some of these are moms, some of these people are like me, but they have made a choice to work their own hours and hopefully connect with companies that appreciate their expertise despite being at home. Again, it's a choice. I'm also speaking at SoGal in September. I don't think I put the link up there, but that is run by Pocket Sun, and there's going to be a whole mass of women students, a lot of students. If you want to pick up young talent, it's a really great place to be. End of September, and it's sort of like a startup weekend type of deal. So.
Last question? Cool. Well done, Sonia.
Thank you.
So the question I have is critiquing the startup CEOs that you've worked with. Because very often, you know, they're first-time managers, first-time bosses, first-time leaders of these brand new ventures. So there's a lot of firsts there and a lot of unknowns. Can you give them some advice on how to approach that? Best practices?
Best practices. Ooh. See, I don't like to tell CEOs how to do their job. Huh? This is my chance. Just be authentic and be passionate. You know what? It's not always about the numbers. It's not always about the profitability, right? I think the idea about developing something that your customers want to use that can ultimately generate revenue comes down to a couple of different factors, and one is leadership. If you are not passionate about your own product or your team, or if you're the kind of person that's just sitting there crunching numbers and you refuse to look up and acknowledge anybody, it makes an impact, right? So it's a combination of having the foresight, the insight, and the social aspect to tie everything together. The other part is, if you don't know what you're doing, ask. Don't pretend like you know everything. I don't know everything, right? Sometimes I'm afraid to ask questions, but other times, just go for it. I mean, the worst that could happen is that somebody says no. So there's no right or wrong to being a CEO. I think it's just a matter of being open and honest with everybody. Your customer, your employees, yourself. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for your presentation, very good one. So from my understanding, is like the node system is perfect. It's how from UI to UX.
Mm-hmm.
So UI UX since you have been UX for 7 years. So if I want you to mention one biggest drawback of UX, what it is, and also you can, for example, when you see UX your life, and what may be the hardest part, and any comments can.
I think that there is no right or wrong when it comes to UX or UI, right? Because every project, every person is so dynamic. You might have one thing but not the other. So if I go back to, how do I go back? It doesn't want me to show you.
Oh.
No. Yeah, okay, whatever. There's just so many different things, and you kind of pick and choose what you need. When I sit down with a client, I don't say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go through all these 10 things. No. They might have time restrictions. They might have budgetary restrictions. I'm going to say, you know what? For this case and for this scenario, based on how I understand where you are right now, let's just do this one thing. And this will hopefully lead to more questions. And when we have answers to these questions, then we can go from there. So I don't like to say that there's a hard part or an easy part, because asking the question alone and getting the answers is hard enough. Same thing goes to your personal life. I mean, I could ask everybody, what's your greatest fear? You might say spiders, but no, I mean, like, really. What prevents you from taking yourself to the next step? You're like, I don't know. Well, let's dig deeper, right? Could it be a childhood fear? Could it be that I know that when I was growing up, somebody told me I'd never succeed. I'd never make more than $20 an hour. It's a fear. So answering these really hard questions, that's the hard part. It's not the exercise. It's the honesty and the authenticity part of it.
Good morning.
Hello.
I'm wondering about your international experience and how the United States is faring globally. There's been a mentality that Americans think we're much more creative than other cultures, so I'm wondering, when you travel, are we competitive? Are we keeping up? Are you learning things there that they're doing? I would think environments like this, where we are out of the offices and we are pushing each other, would seem to carry merit internationally, but curious what your thoughts are.
That's actually a really, really great question. So I do believe the innovation is stronger here in the US. I believe that we have a lot of technology and resources available to us. We as a whole collective country are kicking ass, right? We know what we're doing here, we know what we want, and we know how to get it. The one thing that varies with the international countries is the aspect of camaraderie, friendship, right? Bonding, being human with one another. I have been guilty of walking into a networking event, even here, and probably sizing you out and saying, who are you? What are you doing? How can you benefit me? But in other countries, it's not like that. It's like, who are you? I want to know who you are. Let's not talk about work. Like, oh my gosh, you're an amazing person. I think we could work well. What do you do? What are your skills? And it's that bond. So while they don't have the innovation that we have, I think that it's different. And being able to, I would love for America to, like, let's tone down this whole professionalism thing. Let's just be people. That's the biggest difference that I found, right? I remember I came back from Bali and I was practicing smiling because people in Bali just smile for no reason. My first day there, I'm like, why are you, huh? Because they're in Bali. And I'm like, why are you smiling at me? Yeah. But it's just the culture. And I came back here and I was like so happy and I smiled. I remember getting off the plane and I'm like looking at people waiting for them to smile back and I get, like, whoa, this is the country that we live in, right? And hopefully that doesn't get taken into a work environment. Who are you? Like, you're just an intern. Why am I talking to you? Don't waste my time. I don't like that. It's like, let's just be people, right? Let's just be real with one another. And that's the biggest difference that I've found. Yeah.
Hi, Sonia. First, thank you for such a great talk.
Thank
It
you.
was really insightful and well thought through. I know you touched on this a little bit with your low-hanging fruit when you first started off on your own. I'm just kind of curious if you have a perspective on what your greatest asset was that enabled you to strike it out on your own so successfully, or if it was a combination of assets, what those were.
When I was working at Disney, a lot of people knew me. My personality comes first, and then they knew my work, and I'm very reliable. When I say I'm going to do something, I do something. And so I had a lot of people reach out to me and say, hey, Sonia, we have a really quick project. You'd be perfect fit for it. Can you do it? One of my assets is being able to knock stuff out right the first time. I've just been doing this for a really long time. So I had started freelancing for about a whole year while I was at Disney. I had started with an extra 5 hours a week and grew into 40 hours a week. And so when my boss gave me that, you're disruptive talk, I was like, okay, see ya. But it was me having the guts to continue doing my freelance work, having the confidence to know that I loved interacting with them and that they loved working with me too, and then taking it to the next step. I don't have a regular paycheck, but I'm happy, and that's my MO, right? And so my low-hanging fruit was a combination of things, but it was also designed that way. Like I said earlier, I knew I wanted to be happy. I knew I didn't want to be bossed around. I know I'm a really good designer. I know how to manage time, and I deliver. So those were my assets, right? And so I kind of put everything together. Time, fate, happened, and voila. Yeah.
More questions?
Hey, Sonia, you're one of my favorite people because you're the first one I met at Innovate Pasadena a year ago.
Thank you.
I'm very impressed by you. You're always so helpful and so happy. So give a hand. Huh? So I have a very little question.
Sure.
What made you become a UX designer in the first place? Small question.
So my company name is Maui Media. And a lot of people ask me, why Maui? So in 1995, my brother introduced me to the internet. 1995, we were on a 14.4 modem. And he introduced me to IRC, right? Internet Relay Chat room. Not AOL, not ICQ, just like, I don't even know what it is. My nickname was Maui. So I've been on the internet for a very, 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 very long time. What made me fall into UX? I started dabbling, okay, I'm just gonna get real here. I went to college and I majored in French. Why? So I could order chicken. I don't know why I did. My dad said have fun. I'm like, okay, I'll take French. Didn't work out for me. So I came down to Los Angeles and I took a visual communications class. And since I was already, you know, kind of designing and dabbling, writing robots on the internet, I thought, okay, well, this is a good way to transition into something that I'm already doing. So I took visual communications, it was design. The dean didn't have a program for digital, so I told him, like, hey, I'm it, let's do the course. And I became a UX designer before UX was even a thing, right? So back in the day, requirements came from a project manager, not from the development team. And so very early on, even when I was a little kid, I'd ask why. Why is the sky blue? Why do I have to sit on this chair? Why? It was just part of me. And so moving from design to UX was just a natural transition. And when they finally came up with this term UX, UI, IA, and all this different stuff, I'm like, aha, I've been doing this my entire life. So that's kind of how all this happened. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sonia. So I'm going to go around afterwards for more questions. There's a lot of questions, but I'm sure there's more. Thank you again, Sonia. Now for my favorite part, if you can jump down here and I can get a picture with you and everybody here in the audience.
Okay, but I wanted to put
I'm bossing you around now. No.
Jeez.
Get over here.
I never get bossed around.
Now you do. What is this?
We're peers.
I'm gonna figure out my camera. Okay. I'm taking a black and white picture today. Okay, you ready? Your marks. Everybody in the back have fun. Your marks, get set, go.